Hey guys, today I'm going to be canning up a bunch of crushed tomatoes, so I thought I'd take you along and show you how I do that. So, over here I have a bunch of Roma tomatoes that I've washed in some baking soda water, rinsed really well, and now they're just laying on this clean towel to air dry. Those are going to be for my second batch that I'm going to do today. And my first batch here, I have about the same amount of tomatoes, about 15 pounds or so worth, in this huge stock pot. I did add a couple of quarts of water in this just to help cook them, because for this process I'm going to be using a food mill. And for processing food with a food mill, it needs to be softened or cooked or partially cooked. So I'm going to bring these up to a gentle boil on medium-high heat, and then I'm just, like I said, I don't want to cook them completely, but I do want to soften them enough to run through the food mill. I did not core these or skin them, but I did cut most of the stem top off, or any discolorations or blemishes or anything like that they had on them. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get these going. I'll bring you back once I am ready to run them through the food mill, and I'm going to get my jars sterilizing. So yeah, I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, let's see if I can get a half decent angle for you. Sorry, my kitchen has terrible lighting and the light is behind me and I cast a shadow, and yeah. Anyways, so this is my first time using a food mill. I just bought it yesterday when I went to town and picked up all of my my bulk produce that I got, and I'm really happy with it. Usually when I do stuff like this, I will either only can like diced tomatoes and I'll leave the skins on, or I'll skin them by popping them in the freezer, or by blanching them, like scoring the bottom and blanching them and then peeling them that way. I'll put them in the blender if I want, or a food processor if I want something really smooth. But this, I hope, is going to save me a lot of time in the long run. So I chose the biggest milling disc. This graniteware one came with 3 discs, a coarse, medium, and fine. And I actually did start off with the medium one, and it was just making way too much, I want to say waste, but most of the flesh wasn't passing through. It was making more of a juice, which I don't mind a little bit of coarser textures or little bits of skin in my crushed tomatoes. So what I'm doing here is using the coarse one, and just turn it clockwise, turn it counterclockwise to kind of scrape the bottom off, and then clockwise again to try and press it back through. And then once, my pot's getting pretty full here, so it's getting a little hard to show you. I'm sorry, a little hard to process these. But once they have passed through and it's basically just the skins and scraps left, I'm dumping them in this little saucepan here. And I had actually a friend on Instagram, or messaged me on Instagram this morning, saying that they had seen or heard people, they will dehydrate the scraps from food milling, which I thought was like a super cool idea. So what I'm going to do with these, basically the skins and, sorry, like I said, it's really hard to see. These skins and kind of bigger bits of pulp, I'm going to maybe strain them, some of the excess liquid off of them, and then I'm going to dehydrate them and then put them in the food processor, maybe try to make like a bit of a tomato powder out of, I don't know, try and make as little waste as I can, or use as much as I can, and yeah. Anyways, I'm going to get this done, and I'll bring you back when it's time to fill some jars. Alright, so I have everything I need here. I have my jar funnel, lemon juice, I have a tablespoon. For these, I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of lemon juice to each jar. You could do a quarter of a teaspoon of citric acid, but I choose to use lemon juice. I have my lids soaking here. They're clean, but they haven't been boiled, but they're in very hot water to soften them. I have this, sorry, I know it's terrible lighting in here. This handy little guy, it's a debubbler as well as a lid lifter. It's got a little magnet on the end of it. That's pretty neat. I have a jar lifter here. This is a new one that I got yesterday when I was in town. I got all kinds of cool stuff in town yesterday. I had the same jar lifter for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, however long I've been canning. It's starting to fall apart, so I bought myself a heavy duty one. What else do I have? Obviously my jars. My jars here I have sterilized in my canner. My favorite way to sterilize jars is to put my clean jars in the empty canner, fill it up with water, and then use that water not only to process but also to sterilize. So yeah. Oh yeah, I was going to mention, I used to recommend putting a little bit of vinegar in my water to process, just to help keep the mineral buildup off of my jars. I did that for many years, and it worked really well for that, but it also really encouraged rust to have form in my canner. So I'm not going to do that anymore. I haven't added vinegar to my new canner, and so far it has no rust in it. It's got mineral buildup, obviously, because we have hard water, but yeah, use your discretion there. But I used to recommend it. I don't anymore, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I'm rambling. I am going to, oh yeah, I was going to show you this too. The guide that I follow for most things is this, the Bernardin Book of Canning, or Canning Book. Complete Book of Home Preserving. I have the Ball Blue Book of Canning as well, which I'm sure lots of you guys have heard so many people talk about. Don't get me wrong, it's a great resource, but it's not my favorite. This one is by far my favorite. I find the Ball book has lots of really like gourmet chutneys and relishes and really cool fancy recipes that just aren't really practical for me in kind of everyday home cooking, whereas this one does. It's a lot bigger, I find, and has just more more usable information. So if Bernardin, for those of you that don't know, is the Canadian equivalent basically to Ball Canning. Oh, Bruce is asking for cookies. But yeah, I can't recommend this book enough. So if you're looking for a canning book, get this one. Alright, so I have my lemon juice and my tomatoes in all these jars. I've used my clean, dampened little cloth here to wipe my rims clean. I used just some boiled water to wipe these rims clean. If I'm doing something, oh, wow, sorry, I got a rambunctious boy behind me. If I'm doing stuff like jams or pickles or things that are really sticky or salty, where it's going to be a little bit tougher residue to remove, then I'll dampen that cloth with just some white distilled vinegar. But today I'm just using, like I said, just some water. But yeah, if I was doing pickles or something that was solid, where there would be air pockets in the jar, I would go ahead and debubble these before I cleaned my rims off. But because this is just liquid, hey honey, shh, so rambunctious, I don't need to debubble these. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my rings on all these and fingertip tight, so I'll tighten them till there's resistance, and then one little corner turn kind of after that. For any of you guys, I just remember fingertip tight being like kind of confusing when I first started reading about canning, but you don't want to like over torque them. You want them to be nice and secure on there, but nothing too crazy. And then I have my canning rack just sitting, resting up on the ledges of the pot here, or the lips of the pot here, edge of the pot, whatever word you want to use. And I can't really show you because the camera's on the tripod, but the rack is just sitting right above the water level in there, so which is kind of nice to, I want to say, temper the glass at the jars, because these by now, sorry, I have a hard time talking today. By the time these are all full, my jars are kind of cool to the touch, right? Not cool to the touch. Cool, oh my goodness. Cool enough to handle. Sorry, guys. So you don't want to have any big temperature changes, obviously, right? I've got boiling hot water in this pot and kind of warm enough to handle the jars here. I would hate for that to be too much of a temperature shock for them and for them to crack. So by having them just sitting in the rack, just kind of hovering above the hot water, it'll gradually bring the temperature up a little bit more gradually, if that all makes sense. I hope it does. So like I said, sorry guys, I'm rambly today. So let those sit for a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop them into the water bath canner. I'm going to put the lid on, I'm going to crank my heat all the way up, and I'm going to process these at a full rolling boil with the jars submerged underneath the water by about an inch. For it, the Bernardin book says 35 minutes, but for my elevation I need to add 5 minutes to that. So those are going to process for 40 minutes. While these are processing, I'm going to I have my small, I need to show you my smaller canner over here with some more pint-sized jars that I'm going to get those filled up, because I have, I think, enough in this bowl to get those filled and processing as well. And yeah, I'll show you guys what they look like once they come out of the canner. Alright guys, there you have it. There's 9 pints, soon to be 16 pints, because there's 7 more that are processing in there. That'll be done in about 10 minutes. Okay, gentle with the tomatoes. Somebody's having a good time moving tomatoes from one box to the other box. Very gentle with them, please, honey. Good job, buddy. Thank you. But yeah, anyways, in the morning, or I'm going to let these guys sit on this tea towel on the counter overnight, and then in the morning I will take the rings off of them and wash the jars with a just a microfiber cloth, a damp microfiber cloth. I'll label them, and then they'll head down to the root cellar for us to enjoy all winter long. So yeah, as always, if you like this video, please be sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care.